Let's get beyond this 7 appointed people. We live in a world of appointed boards. Do you not agree that forming this commission adds to another level of bureaucracy that is politically motivated? I would answer to him, no. Do you not agree that this amendment would take additional funds from an already strapped state budget? And I would say no. Do you not agree that if charter schools were so great, we should altogether scrap the present school system and make all schools charter schools? And I would answer him no. Do you not agree that the bottom line for the creation of many charter schools will be about making money rather than making things better for students? And I would answer him no. Do you not agree that the students who need a quality education most will not have an equal opportunity to attend strategically placed charter schools? And again, my answer is no. Now, let's look at it this way. Many of you probably have children in schools. And if this school were available to you, would you want to send your child? This charter school will provide students with the necessary tools and skills needed to develop superior levels of achievement. This is an actual charter school. We will strive for academic, social, and physical excellence by providing a quality and challenging curriculum. We will promote positive moral and social values, foster an atmosphere of self-discipline in a safe learning environment, and maximize individual productivity to meet the needs of a changing global society. Are you getting this in your school today? The advantages of this particular charter school provides a choice option in the county where it's located. Active and meaningful parental involvement, local governance, personalized learning plans for all students, research-based instructional strategies, foreign language in all grade levels, arts, music, and enrichment activities in all grade levels. Are you getting this in your child's school? Student information system that creates effective and consistent communication between school parents and the detailed data to drive instruction. Continuous performance monitoring and measurement. Integrated character education program and developed communities of character framework. So I would submit that a charter school doesn't sound like too bad a place to be a public school where the level of student funding is about 60% of what it is in the public schools where you are now. Nobody has to go to a charter school if there's a charter school. If nobody wants to go, there won't be a charter school. You can't get better choice than that. So I would ask you tonight to pay attention, ask your questions, learn all you can about this, and then I hope you would make the decision to support the amendment that would enable the state to grant charters to charter schools. Thank you.
An invitation was extended to Senator Hardy Davis, for many of us know that he voted in support of this resolution 1162. If I'm wrong, if I wish someone correct me in that regard. But he would have been here tonight, but he let Monique Braswell made her aware that he had an engagement tonight at Augusta City, Capital City Classic, and that he had made prior, and as a result of that, he was not here tonight, but he would have been here otherwise.
I have decided to take a position in opposition of the constitutional amendment that will be on November 6th ballot. The reason for my position is until all of our public school students are in school for a full 180-day school year, until essential services like transportation and student support services return to effective levels, and until teachers regain jobs with full pay for a full school year, we should not redirect one more dollar away from Georgia's local school districts, much less than an additional $430 million in state funds, which is what it would cost to add 7 new state charter schools per year over the next 5 years. That statement is coming from our state superintendent, Dr. Barge.
I support public charter schools. The Constitution of the United States of America is the most sacred document that we have as a country. The Constitution of the state of Georgia is the most sacred document that we as citizens of the state of Georgia have to operate under. Now, by amending the Constitution and allowing a special commission in Atlanta to establish charter schools creates a dual school system with only 4 or 5 persons being responsible for establishing those schools, for monitoring those schools. It creates a completely different environment. What you're confronted with as a as a General Assembly as well, is that once you amend the Constitution with a simple majority of 91 persons in the House and 26 persons in the Senate, the language can be changed in terms of what a charter school actually represents. The funding can be changed with a simple 91 House member vote and 28 persons in the Senate. So what you're doing is you're changing the control that you have by way of a constitution that protects your interest in public education from 9.7 million people having an opportunity to participate in that, and you just giving it to a handful of less than, probably less than 180 people. And you really don't want to do that, because you want to make sure that your interest is taken care of. Now, as it relates to charter schools, public charter schools, where you have local control, local interest, you can't afford to give that away. That's a valuable asset that we as citizens of this great state that we have. So I am begging, I am pleading with you, please don't change the most sacred document that we have as citizens by approving this constitutional amendment. Once you give it away, you're never going to get it back. So it's in your best interest and my best interest to make sure that we still have control over the schools that we have. Cut over $6 billion out of public education in Georgia over the past 8 to 10 years or so. Now, there's no better time for those that are supporting this amendment to introduce it than right now. Our economy is beginning to come back. So instead of putting that money in public education, the $6 or $8 billion I just talked about, why not put it in these charter schools? Instead of making our public school system whole again, let's put this money in what? In charter schools. So you can't afford to do that. Do whatever you do. If you never hear another word that I might say, please don't give your control as a citizen of Georgia, don't give it to just 4 or 5 people that's going to really have a competitive advantage over you simply because they can make things happen for their own special interest groups.
Supreme Court of Georgia did not speak out against state charter schools. What the Supreme Court said was the state did not have the authority under the Constitution to charter these schools in the manner that they were doing it. And the majority of the state legislature, in its wisdom, crafted this constitutional amendment that would allow the state to go back and reestablish this commission and do what it's been doing for a number of years. There was an issue raised about the cost. And there is no state money that will be lost by this school district or any other. They will continue to receive all the state funds, and they will continue to receive all the local property tax money that they now collect. That's in the law. Nobody can administratively or arbitrarily change that. But it's important to know, too, that if you pull 300 kids out of the Richmond County system and put them in a charter school, the Richmond County system is still collecting state money and local property tax money to educate those 300 children who have left. So the local system gains. Maybe they have the wisdom to give a break to the taxpayers. But what happens, and these are statewide numbers, it costs $8,993 to educate a child in a public school system like this. In a charter school, it's $7,409. And you say, well, why is that? And that's because the charter schools don't have the big district office and all the specialists and the bureaucracy that you have.
When that money comes back, you would expect that the money would be allocated back to the public school system so that our teachers and all of our personnel that support education would not continue to have these furlough days. There are, in your earlier grades, the assistance that's necessary to assist the teachers will be, we would hope that at some point they will be replaced in the classrooms. So when you really look at the overall budget in terms of the appropriations come from the state back to the local boards of education, the local school systems, based upon the way we are structured right now, that's not going to happen. And furthermore, this is an important issue. If the Constitution of the state of Georgia will remove, we will support the amendment that will allow secondary education system to be established with, once again, the formula that Mayor Bob Young has spoken about, that can be just changed with a simple majority vote in the House and a simple majority vote in the
The
Senate.
court ruled that the Georgia Charter Commission was illegal because it approved funding and approved and fund charter schools despite the local Board of Education's opposition. And what a lot of people don't understand is once the students are allowed, or if a parent decides to take their child out of public school and send them to charter school, the money does follow the child. If the parent is not satisfied with their charter school, that money does not come back to public school. It stays in that charter school. So yes, the money will follow the child, but it will not come back to the local Board of Education. The money is actually taken from the local Board of Education and is taken out of our local tax dollars.
Students move from a traditional public school to a state charter school will not reduce the district's per student direct student funding. And that is in House Resolution 1162, lines 50 through 54.
But the local tax money that is in your traditional public school system will not go to these state chartered schools. I don't know how to make it any clearer than what's in the law, and that's what it said.
The FTE dollars for each student will follow the student regardless of where that student goes. In addition, for those students, it's actually very clearly written, in addition, those students who are authorized that go to a state charter school will get additional funding equal to the lowest 5% of the local dollars, as well as an average of SPLOST dollars that would follow the child, which is where you come up with the $7,400. But one of the things that was said is that the locals will get a windfall on this, and that's not true. In the charter schools that have started up in the county where I am, there have been no reduction in teachers because children don't move to a charter school in neat little packages of 30 students. They come from all over. So there were no reductions in the transportation costs. There were no reductions in the number of teachers that needed to be filling the classrooms in the traditional schools. There was no reduction in the number of schools that the local school system had to keep open. So the locals don't receive a windfall when children leave to go to a charter school. They still have to provide the same services to all the remaining students, and children don't leave in convenient packages. Charter schools don't take $500,000 children. They take the ones that make their school look good. They have that opportunity. So they don't have to provide transportation. They don't have to provide hot lunches. They don't have to provide a lot of the special services. And they may have a lottery to accept children, but if they don't provide the services that child needs, that child is not going to be able to take advantage of going to that charter school and will have to stay in the traditional public school, which must provide those services. So going back to what Fulton County provides, with 30% of its funding going to provide 10% to 10% of the students, if you look at the remaining funding that is available for the 90%, and you take out transportation and you take out hot lunches, it turns out that they actually cost considerably less than that $9,000 average. They are more on the under $6,000 average, whereas the charter schools will be getting $7,400.
Even if they are chartered under this new commission that we're talking about, they are still public schools, just like your traditional public schools, which means they have to provide all the other services that traditional public schools are required to provide.
There are 200 charter schools in the state of Georgia right now that are working very, very well. And it's up to whoever grants the charter, whether it's the state school board, the local school board, or hopefully this commission. If the school is not living up to its contract, performance is not there, the financial wherewithal is not there, then the charter will be pulled and the school will be out of business. It's that simple.
There's a possibility that you might not even have a teacher, simply because of the technology that's going to be used by some for-profit companies in terms of the way they educate the kids. There's a lot of variations to what we are approaching as it relates to these charter schools. You really limit the number of persons that's responsible for the governance of the school system, then you're looking at a completely, in my mind, a different conflict as it relates to the identity as well as the mission. When you start removing local control from public education and place all of that control in a 7-number board, you've identified something completely other than public
The
education.
local boards of education has the right to accept or reject their application. If their application is rejected, then there is a procedure in place where they are applied to the state, and the state board then determines whether that particular school is actually going to receive approval or disapproval. So there's a policy that's already in place, so why would you reinvent the wheel?
Say that if I want to have a charter school, even though I know darn well nobody from Valdosta is going to come to it, I can declare a statewide charter and I can avoid having to be rejected by a local school system. Second, there's nothing to say that you can't create a charter, submit a charter to a local board. This happened under the former commission, that the same charter that is submitted to a local board of education is not the same charter that has to be presented to the authorizing commission. So they can present one charter here and completely rewrite it and submit it to the commission.
I'm curious, since we've been talking about how there's an option when your local board rejects your application to then appeal to this state commission. Can you give me some idea of why would a local board deny an application?
Does this charter school provide a special environment or fill a unique need that is not currently being met by the traditional public education offered in that community? The second question is this charter school, can this charter school prove its financial viability and show that it will be sustainable for the duration of the charter length for 5 years on average? The majority, truly the majority of the charters that are turned down is because they cannot prove that they really have the financial wherewithal to guarantee that school will still stay open 5 years. And the worst thing that can happen is that you create a charter school and you move a bunch of kids over there and they go, oops, sorry, we don't have the money. And 2 years down the road, you have to shuffle them back to another school and disrupt their education.
The legislation becomes suspicious because it gives the opportunity for a panel to make decisions that I will not have any control over. Exactly.
The charter schools, and this is in Georgia, enroll a higher percentage of minorities than traditional public schools, 61% versus 56%. Half of all charter school students qualify for free and reduced lunch. The majority of independent startup charter schools enroll a larger percentage of minorities than their local school system. And academically, minorities benefit greatly from charter schools. Now you say, well, how do you know all this? Well, I'm going to tell you, there was some research done by Dr. Jay Green, who's the endowed professor of education reform at the University of Arkansas. And he did some randomized controlled trials. These are test things like you do if you were doing a science experiment. And they've gotten results on 4 of these. Why would you have a charter school in Boston, Massachusetts? Because the charter school effects reported here are large enough to reduce the black-white reading gap in middle schools by 2/3. These are proven results. Why in New York City? On average, a student who attended a charter school for all of grades kindergarten through 8 would close about 86% of the Scarsdale-Harlem achievement gap in math and 66% of the achievement gap in English. Why would you have one in Chicago? Students in charter schools outperformed a comparable group of lotteried out students who remained in regular public schools by 5 to 6 percentile points in math and 5 percentile points in reading. The evidence is clear that those schools in urban settings benefit minorities greatly.
The student body is supposedly drawn from the public schools in the area, but it seems to not represent what is in that area. It's located in Calhoun County. In Calhoun County Public Schools, 94% of the students are black, 2% of the students are white, and 92% are eligible for free and reduced lunch because their parents are poor. At this academy, 21% of the students are black, not 94%. 75% are white, not 2%. And 54, about half of the rate, are eligible for free or reduced lunch. So if this was a true lottery, if you know anything about statistics, you would know that those numbers would be far closer to what is represented in Calhoun County. And this is just an example of one charter school. Also, if you look at the results of demographic data on charter schools across this state, and there's been a lot of discussion about, does a charter school perform better? Does a public school perform better? Do the state-authorized commissioned charter schools perform better than public schools? If you break it down to the specific demographic, you find that across the board, students who are in charter schools do no better that are the same demographic from the same area than those that are in the traditional public schools. And you've seen that in many different school systems.
Is this 7-member commission going to take into consideration the needs of the local government? No, they're not. They're going to appoint people on this commission that's going to support their cause and their initiative, along with the Mayor Pro Tem Jan Jones. In reference to anything else that goes on, first of all, the funding, the majority of it right now is coming from out of state. And I just found out the other night the Koch brothers have added $10,000 to the pot. So charter schools, this amendment really is being funded by out-of-state people who have an interest in, of course, acquiring money. They're not concerned about the students. They're not concerned about the academic being, the student achievement, parental involvement. If you can increase parental involvement, then you have the golden egg. Because I think that's what we're all doing. And right now, if I look around this room, I see parents out there in the audience. And they are already involved because they are here tonight. And I have to say, I'm a parent. And my child attends Richmond Academy. And she's not in the IB program, she's an average student. And I think she's getting a great education at Richmond Academy. But when you take away the local control, you're taking away what the taxpayers of this county or any other county in the state of Georgia wants. And first of all, it's not just about Richmond County. It's about the whole state of Georgia. It's about our constitutional rights and our amendments.
I realize after all these years, nobody has ever come and said, thank you for passing No Child Left Behind, except parents of special needs kids, parents whose kids are doing better today than their kids that were 10 years ago in the public school systems, because I would say that the success that No Child Left Behind has is that today everybody is tested in math and reading. Every school, every parent of every child knows what their school is doing. Every parent has access to their teachers, their kids' teachers, their records, and they know what is expected of the teachers in that school system.
Okay.
I know nobody's gonna say no child left behind. But I would argue that if we had not done that, can you imagine what the school systems would be like now if there was no accountability?
Thank you.
A production of AnibalShow.
AnibalShow.com.
AnibalShow.com.